3 a.m. Shocking truth, what Jesus, Moses, and Elijah revealed about the afterlife forever. The clock struck 3, the hour of shadows and secrets, when the world slept but the veil between life and death thinned. On a night unbothered by moonlight, beneath the oppressive weight of darkness, 3 figures stood in eerie stillness beside a crumbling tombstone. Their identities were cloaked in mystery, and their whispers danced around like sparks in a brewing storm. Could it really be Jesus, Moses, and Elijah? An electric current surged in the air, crackling with the weight of eternity and unanswered questions that it started with an artifact, a dusty old book hidden in a forgotten attic. Its leather cracked, the pages yellowed like the brittle leaves of fall. The moment Sarah opened it, she felt a rush of visceral shiver finding room in her chest, a lump frozen in her throat. The words, just barely legible, spoke of afterlife revelations that sent spirals of fear and wonder through her mind. Each line, a drop of suspense, lured her deeper with chilling promises revealing secrets lost to time. The first strange element that pricked her curiosity was a bizarre passage about a portal. The door to the afterlife swings open, it hinted, but only at the witching hour. Breathlessly, she turned to her best friend, Mike, wide-eyed. What if these ancient figures held the keys to eternity? They gazed around nervously, the familiar sounds of the neighborhood now feeling distant, muffled under the weight of the knowledge they were about to uncover. Why were these figures walking among them now? What did Moses mean when he pointed to the horizon, his finger trembling like he carried the weight of 1,000 secrets? A solemn tension twisted in Sarah's stomach, tightening like a rubber band ready to snap. Whispers about divine messages grew louder, filling the night air with anticipation, mysteries just begging to burst forth into reality. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A sudden gust of wind whooshed past, chilling Sarah and Mike to their core, urging them to huddle closer together. The sound of rustling leaves felt like 1,000 whispers, edging them toward a truth they might not be ready to confront. On the surface, it seemed like just another night, but here, in this moment, they realized they were hanging by a thread between the known and the unimaginable. As the figures turned to face them with eyes that glimmered like distant stars, a new question formed in the air. Could the answers they sought intertwine their fates forever? Outside, the world lay in unholy silence, but inside them, a storm was brewing, one that would change everything they thought they knew about life, death, and the secrets of the afterlife. What would they decide when the sun broke the spell of shadows? The thrill of the unknown loomed ahead, ready to pull them in. As Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, she met Mike's frantic gaze. He was trembling, visibly shaken by the austere figures standing before them. The energy in the air was electric, and for a brief, dizzying moment, the world around them vanished. Only the whispers of the divine remained, filling the night with an urgency that was impossible to ignore. What do you want? Sarah finally found her voice, though it trembled as if it didn't belong to her. The figures stepped closer, each filled with a grace that radiated an overwhelming light, pushing back against the dark shadows surrounding them. Jesus, robes billowing like clouds, shifted closer, his presence both calming and commanding. It is time, he spoke softly, his voice rich as honey. Time to uncover the truth that has eluded humanity. Moses extended a hand toward the horizon, where the first hints of dawn threatened to break the night's grip. What lies beyond this life is more than fear or salvation. It's a choice that each soul must make, a journey only the brave will undertake. As his words faded, an almost tangible silence fell. The leaves stopped rustling, and the air thickened with trepidation. Sarah felt the lump within her throat swell. This was so much bigger than she had ever anticipated. What do we have to do? The question fell from her lips like a prayer, a desperate plea for guidance. Elijah stepped forward, his eyes piercing like a thunderstorm ready to unleash its fury. To witness the gateway, he said, locking eyes with Sarah, you need to face your deepest fears. The portal reveals itself not just to anyone, it seeks a heart willing to confront its own darkness. A flash of panic surged through her. What kind of fears? What horrors lay tucked away in her mind? She tended to shove those thoughts deep down, like a child hiding underneath a blanket, hoping the monsters would simply go away. But they never truly vanished. What if I can't? She stammered, her voice barely above a whisper, trailing off as a shiver ran through her spine. The figures, each commanding in their own right, offered no immediate comfort or assurance. Mike, still at her side, took a deep breath. We can do this together, right? We have to, don't we? His voice was steadier than her own, though she could hear a hint of fear cracking through, but Moses was already shaking his head. The journey is yours to make alone. Only one can enter at the witching hour, and it is the one who is brave enough to embrace their truth. A wave of despair washed over her. Was she really expected to venture into the unknown, armed only with her fears? The very idea felt suffocating. But there was something else, a flicker of something deep inside her, an ember ignited by curiosity and a thirst for knowledge that couldn't be quenched. I will do it, she said finally, her voice stronger than she felt. I will find the truth. Their eyes remained on her, an unbroken stare that felt like a cosmic weight on her shoulders. But before she could dwell on her decision, the world shifted. The tombstone behind them began to vibrate, emitting a low hum that rattled the bones in her body. Light pulsed from its surface in sync with her heartbeat, transforming into shapes that twisted and writhed as if begging to escape. Now is your moment, Jesus urged, his eyes bright, filled with warmth but also grave urgency. Stand at the edge, and prepare yourself for what the portal reveals. The wind howled again, tugging at her clothes like invisible fingers, drawing her toward the tombstone. Sarah's breaths quickened, a cocktail of fear and exhilaration bubbling in her chest. What awaited her beyond that door of uncertainty? Each second stretched into eternity as she gathered her will, edging closer to the unknown, but before she could take another step, the ground shifted beneath her, and the world spun. Shadows melded together before her eyes, whispering secrets she could barely comprehend. Choose wisely, echoed in her mind, leaving her reeling. What would she uncover inside that portal? Would the revelations free her, or would they drag her to places she dared not explore? As she stood at the precipice of eternity, a single thought clenched her heart: she was about to find out. As Sarah stood on that precipice, the ground trembled beneath her feet. Every ounce of courage seemed to tremble too. Her heart raced like a mad drum, pulsating with an energy that felt as alive as the figures before her. Mike's grip on her arm tightened, but she could barely focus on him, her gaze fixed on the tombstone now radiating a blinding light. Sarah, Mike whispered, his voice breaking through the haze of her thoughts. Are you sure about this? She nodded, forcing her trembling lips into a semblance of a smile. But inside, waves of doubt crashed against her resolve. Would she return? Was she ready to dive into the unknown alone? The shadows danced around her, some familiar, some frighteningly alien, whispering secrets that felt both unbearable and irresistible. With a final deep breath, she stepped forward. The moment her foot made contact with the tombstone, the world exploded in a flash of pure light. It enveloped her completely, swirled around her like a whirlwind, igniting every nerve. In an instant, she was transported. The air shifted warm and fragrant, heavy with the scent of flowers that bloomed in hues she couldn't name. She stood in a vast, impossibly beautiful landscape, one that felt like it existed between dreams and reality. Rolling hills stretched endlessly around her, dotted with bright-colored flora. Delicate music floated on the breeze, sweet and soothing, like a lullaby, but as she gazed around in awe, shadows began to chase away the light, melding into shapes that felt disturbingly close to her deepest fears. Faces, voices, memories clawed their way to the surface of her mind. She gasped there was her younger self, sitting in a corner, afraid of the dark. The feeling of isolation swept over her like a cold tide, pushing every ounce of warmth aside. "Face it," a voice echoed, deep and commanding. It was not one of the divine figures but a dark whisper that felt inseparable from her own insecurities. "You can't escape who you were." "No," she stammered, recoiling from the apparition. "I'm not that person anymore." But the shadows twisted closer, reminding her of past mistakes, the voices of those she had hurt, the moments of betrayal, the fears of rejection. Her breath came in shallow gasps, and she felt as if the ground beneath her would swallow her whole. This was not mere observation, this was a confrontation. "Rejecting the darkness will only allow it to fill you," the voice hissed, wrapping around her like a suffocating cloak. With each step, the figures loomed larger, until Jesus appeared before her, his expression filled with compassion. "You are not alone in this," he said, his voice a balm. "Embrace your truth, only then can you hear what lies beyond." Suddenly, Sarah felt an immense weight on her chest lift. She closed her eyes, digging deep to unearth the courage buried beneath the blackness of those memories. "I acknowledge it," she breathed, her voice trembling. "All of it." The shadows recoiled, as if her words were light piercing through the darkness. She pressed on, "I am not just my fears. I am also my strengths, my triumphs. I choose to move forward." In that moment, the landscape shifted again, the beautiful colors exploding around her like fireworks. The music transformed into a symphony, uplifting and powerful. The shadowy figures began to fade, dissolving into light. But just as clarity washed over her, a sudden chill gripped her soul. A new darkness began to seep into the vibrant scene, sharper and colder than before. Flashes of betrayal, violence, and despair wove through the air, signaling something sinister was approaching. "Sarah," it echoed, a voice familiar yet twisted, laced with malice. "You thought you could leave it behind?" Her heart plummeted. She spun around, fear twisting in her gut as she prepared to confront whatever horror was surfacing next. The realization hit her: she had unlocked a door, but another was beginning to open, revealing threats she had never imagined. What awaited her in this next dark passage? Would she survive the ultimate test of her courage? With shadows looming over her shoulders, she braced for the confrontation of her life. The world around her shifted again, a dizzying spiral of color and darkness. Sarah felt weightless, like she was suspended in an endless void. Echoes of laughter, screams, and the clamor of chaos collided within her mind. Shadows twisted and morphed into familiar faces, their expressions twisted with anger and betrayal. "Sarah," one voice pierced through the confusion. It was Mike S., distorted and echoing. "You need to wake up." She wanted to respond, but the shadows took form, each figure embodying a fear or regret that had haunted her for years. Friends she had failed, family she had hurt, they surrounded her like a storm ready to unleash its fury. "You're still running," another echo taunted. "You think you can escape?" "No." Sarah screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. "I'm not running from anything." But as the figures drew closer, their faces turned grotesque, a visceral reminder of the pain she had tried so hard to leave behind. The ground beneath her shifted, unstable and treacherous, terror coursed through her veins as she stumbled backward. But when she turned, she found herself face to face with the last person she ever wanted to see, her high school bully, Jenna. Her eyes glinted with malice, a cruel smile creeping across her face. "Look who it is," Jenna sneered, stepping forward. "Thought you could be someone else? Look at you, still the same weak little girl." As if fueled by Jenna's words, a sense of rage ignited within Sarah. "I'm not weak," she shouted, her voice strong and unwavering. "I am stronger than you think. I've faced my fears, and I will not let you win." The shadows seemed to shrink away from her conviction. The music swelled, echoing her own emerging strength. Yet, the mocking laughter persisted, weaving through the air. "Strength?" Jenna scoffed. "You have no idea what lies ahead. This is just the beginning." The brightness faded, revealing a nightmarish landscape of cracked earth and endless darkness. Sarah could feel cold hands reaching for her, pulling her in a direction that felt like a bottomless pit of despair. "No more!" she yelled, her hands balling into fists. "I choose my path, and it's not following you into the abyss." The shadows recoiled, their forms distorted in reaction to her rage. But the ground trembled violently, and the air thickened with dread. Something was creeping up behind her, whispering promises of despair darker than any fear she had faced before. Sarah, the sinister voice slithered closer. It was her own voice, twisted and dark. "You think you're free? You're not. You still hold on to the hurt." Tears stung her eyes. "I can't let you control me." With every ounce of strength, she turned to confront the source of the malignancy creeping toward her. The shadows contorted, writhing and shrinking with her defiance. But just when it felt like she was winning, an even darker presence emerged. The oppressive weight of betrayal washed over her like a tidal wave. Vivid memories flooded her mind that one fateful day when she had betrayed her best friend. The guilt choked her, coiling tightly around her throat. "You'll never be rid of this," the shadows taunted, their sinister laughter echoing through the emptiness. In a whirlwind of emotion, Sarah felt herself faltering. Her heart raced as she sensed the gravity of her choices swirling around her. "Face it," the darkness hissed. "Your past is a monster you can never outrun." She gasped, the weight of that moment pulling her under again. The twisting shadows began to converge, growing denser and darker, threatening to envelop her entirely. Panic surged as she realized she was losing control. Suddenly, a light sliced through the darkness as Jesus' image materialized before her again, beautiful and radiant. He extended a hand, a silent invitation. "Only you can purge the darkness from within." With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah reached for him, the warmth of hope racing through her. "I choose to break free," she cried, diving toward the light. But just as she touched his hand, the shadows lunged, their sharp forms racing towards her, hungry for her spiraling strength. Would she emerge victorious, or would the darkness consume her whole? Time felt suspended, and everything narrowed down to this single moment of fate. The shadows screamed, their cries echoing through the vast emptiness, but as Sarah took a deep breath, she felt the weight of the world trembling under her resolve. What would rise from the ashes of her past? She was about to find out. A blinding light enveloped Sarah, shattering the suffocating grip of the shadows. The warmth surged through her, pushing back against the encroaching darkness, illuminating the twisted forms that once tortured her. For a moment, she was weightless, floating in a sea of brightness, and the world of nightmares shrank away, but as quickly as it came, the light flickered, casting strange shadows anew. Sarah's heart pounded, a drum echoing in her ears. She was no longer in the abyss, but neither was she fully free. Panic knotted her stomach as she turned to the radiance of Jesus, who stood like a steadfast guardian in the stormy aftermath of her consciousness. "Look around, Sarah," he urged gently. "You must confront what you fear, not run from it." In that moment, reality blurred, the brightness dimmed, and the fractured pieces of her life began to coalesce into unsettling shapes. Dark figures loomed, remnants of her past mistakes and regrets, swirling around her like vultures waiting for the chance to feast on her vulnerability. "You'll always be haunted by your choices," a voice hissed, this time distorted, echoing her own doubts. "You can't escape that." "No," she cried out, desperation clawing at her throat. "I can change." With each defiant scream, the figures hesitated, as if her conviction weighed against their existence. But Jenna's laughter rang loud and clear, cutting through the haze. "Change? How can you change your soul's darkness?" Sarah's resolve flickered like a candle in a tempest. Heart pounding, she recalled moments of kindness, compassion, and forgiveness she had given and received. The warmth of those memories surged up within her like a flame. "I have done good. I am not defined by my mistakes." As she claimed her truth, a shift occurred. The figures wavered, their forms melting, indistinct and losing potency against her newfound strength. She felt lighter, but Jenna stepped closer, her eyes narrowed in fury. "You cannot erase your past." "Maybe not," Sarah breathed, finding her voice steady and sure. "But I can own it." With every word, she envisioned casting away the chains of guilt. The ground rumbled beneath her, it felt like an earthquake cracking open the stillness of her heart. She could see more clearly now, every shadow an opportunity for redemption. Suddenly, the shadows began to swell and thrash, the echoes of laughter growing frantic as the light brightened again. Sarah realized she couldn't merely escape, she had to integrate these pieces of herself into a whole. In the radiance, she reached out, imagining mending the wounds she had inflicted on others, confronting them with compassion. "Jesus, guide me," she pleaded, hope kindling within her chest. He nodded, pride in his eyes, and the shadows paused, hesitating at her transformation. But just then, a chilling voice erupted from the darkness. "You think you can find peace?" It snarled, unyielding. "Your past will always drag you back." The shadows surged, a ferocious wave threatening to engulf her entirely. The ground felt like it was splitting open, inviting her into its chaotic depths. Sarah stumbled, gasping as panic flared anew. Just as the tide of darkness closed in, she heard a softer sound, the voice of her best friend, the one she had betrayed. "I forgive you, Sarah." Her heart raced. Could this be real? Was the weight of her guilt lifting? She turned, desperate for more, and there she saw her friend's familiar silhouette, shining brilliantly amid the chaos. Did she really forgive her? Could this be the key to breaking the shadow's hold? With every ounce of courage, Sarah stepped forward. "I'm so sorry for everything," she shouted, feeling both liberation and despair. But as the shadows threatened to swallow her whole, she felt a tie, the fragility of hope tethering her to that shining moment. Would this be enough to shatter the darkness? Would her journey lead her into the abyss, or to a new beginning? The shadows closed in fast, an overwhelming tide ready to claim her. The darkness was upon her, icy tendrils wrapping around her limbs, squeezing with a fierce grip. Sarah gasped, panic clawing at her throat. The moment stretched indefinitely, fear flooding her senses like a storm. But even in that terrifying grip, something powerful surged within her. The voice of her friend echoed in her mind, curling around her thoughts, pulling her back from the brink. "I forgive you, Sarah." The shadows faltered, as if her friend's words were like sunlight breaking through a heavy cloud. She dared to look into the light, into the radiance that seemed to pulse with life and possibility. This was the moment. This was the fight she had been building towards. She had the power to confront her demons. "Your past has no hold on me," she shouted, refusing to let despair drown her. The shadows flickered, retreating almost as if startled by her defiance. It was working. Could she really be breaking free? "Foolish girl," Jenna's voice reverberated, cold and dismissive. "You will never be free. Every mistake, every betrayal, is a chain around your soul. It will always drag you back." "No." Sarah stepped forward into the light, her spirit ignited by memories of love, forgiveness, and hope. "I will not be defined by my regrets." The darkness seemed to pulse, like a living entity, thrashing in anger. The twisted figures writhing around her began to dissolve, their haunting whispers replaced by something softer, a chorus of encouragement from deep within. "Believe in the good," shouted the voice of her friend, as it glinted bright amidst the chaos. "It's there. You just have to reach for it." With a single breath, Sarah envisioned each shadow fading into a mist, losing their hold over her as she stepped closer to the shimmering light. She felt warmth radiate through her, melting the bitterness that had infiltrated her heart. Each step was both a challenge and a redemption, the notion that failure could lead to growth echoing in her bones. "Let go," Jesus urged, his presence illuminating the dark corners of her soul. "Let your past ignite the fire within you." As she exhaled, a torrent of memories washed over her. The kindness of strangers, the comfort of laughter with friends, the joy of moments shared. She held on to those feelings as tightly as she could, as the shadows lunged, their fangs dripping with bitterness. Every moment counts, she declared, feeling each powerful pulse of her heart. And I choose to move forward. The shadows screeched, a cacophony of rage as they collided in a tempest. But, instead of recoiling, Sarah pressed forth, her heart swelling, amplifying her faith. The warmth intensified, vibrating with a radiance that gathered strength in her soul. Suddenly, a brilliant flash erupted around her, radiating light so bright it swallowed the darkness entirely. The shadows shrieked one last time, evaporating like mist under the sun's relentless glare. But just as she believed herself freed, an ear-splitting roar pierced through the last remnants of shadows. A figure emerged from the light, dark and ominous, a silhouette against the brilliance. Did you really think it would be that easy? The figure bellowed, eyes glinting with malevolence. Heart racing, dread loomed over Sarah again. Who was this new threat, standing between her and the light? What fresh horrors were waiting to ensnare her? The battle wasn't over, not yet. Would she have the strength to face whatever this darkness was? Would the flicker of hope ignite a blaze or fade into nothingness? With every ounce of her determination, Sarah prepared for the confrontation ahead. The moment had come. The figure loomed closer, a haunting shadow against the shimmering light. Sarah squinted, trying to make sense of the form. It shifted, almost fluid, exuding an aura of power that made her knees tremble. "Who are you?" she managed to choke out, her voice quaking. "You know me well," it hissed, a twisted smile stretching across its dark features. "I am the embodiment of your greatest fears, the truth you run from." An icy chill coursed through her body, and something deep within Sarah shuddered at the implication. "No," she cried, shaking her head. "You're not real. You're just a manifestation of my past." "Am I?" it retorted, its voice echoing with malice. "Or am I the reality you refuse to face?" The shadows that had been exorcised now reformed at its feet, a writhing mass ready to pounce. Each one glittered with memories of those she had lost, choices she had regretted, moments that twisted deep into her soul. They howled, reminding her of the weight she had carried for so long, dragging her down into despair. "Fight it, Sarah." A voice shot through her consciousness, Jesus, stronger than before, fierce and unwavering. "You are not alone." Sarah searched the light, searching for comfort, but the darkness around her threatened to swallow it whole. The figure's mocking laughter rang in her ears as dread pooled in her stomach. How could she possibly stand against this? "Remember what you've accomplished," the voice urged. Each step forward was a triumph. "That is your power, not this creature." With a deep breath, Sarah centered herself, grasping onto the moments that had defined her. She envisioned her friend's loving smile, the warmth of laughter that had once filled her heart. In that instant, a new light began to flicker within her, a flame stoked by hope and resilience. "No, I will not be afraid. You have no hold over me," she shouted, her voice resonating with newfound strength. The figure recoiled, its form rippling as if she had struck it. "Your defiance is meaningless. Look around you," it screeched. The shadows circled like vultures, their hissing whispers clawing at her resolve. "Every moment counts," Sarah cried again, forcing herself to confront the darkness. "And I choose life. I choose hope." Flashes of light cascaded from her fingers, illuminating the shadows that recoiled before her. The figure writhed, its own form weakening under the brilliance she was manifesting. Each heartbeat was a drumbeat of war, pushing back the tide of despair that had threatened to drown her. Then, she saw at a crack in the darkness, a flicker of brightness where the shadows quivered. The light beckoned her victoriously, promising freedom. With adrenaline surging through her veins, she charged toward it, her heart racing. But as she approached, the sinister figure laughed again, unyielding, its voice like ice. "You think you can escape me? I am part of you, Sarah. And I will always be here. In that moment, uncertainty flickered in her mind. What if it was right? What if her past, her pain, was always lurking just beneath the surface? She hesitated, fear lapping at her resolve again, but she couldn't allow this shadow to define her any longer. The flicker of light surged brighter, sparking determination within her soul. You will not dictate my future, she declared fiercely. With a final push, she surged into the light, ready to dissolve the dark figure forever. As she breached the border of light and shadow, a bone-chilling scream filled the air, a sound of pure rage and desperation. The darkness howled as it crumbled around her, but just before it faded entirely, something flashed before her eyes, an image, a warning, a truth that bent her reality. Sarah, the figure's voice echoed one last time, filled with a promise of vengeance. I'll be back. And at that moment, just as the last remnants of shadow dissolved, the light shimmered, revealing what lay beyond the veil of truth. But what greeted her was beyond what she could comprehend, and as she exhaled, the very air crackled with tension. What did the darkness mean? What revelations awaited her on the other side? The questions echoed, filling her with uncertainty. The next chapter was about to unfold. The light enveloped Sarah like a warm blanket, but its brightness felt unsettling. She stood momentarily stunned, her heart pounding in her chest. Flickers of clarity pierced through the haze. She took a cautious step into the unknown, eyes wide, trying to determine what had just been unleashed. Before her was a vast expanse filled with swirling colors. Shades of blue and gold danced in the air, leaving trails of shimmering light. Yet, in the distance, a relentless sound lurked, like the echo of thunder, heavy and foreboding. The beauty felt deceptive, wrapping itself around her like a false promise. Sarah, a voice rang soft, yet commanding. The tone was eerily familiar, stirring something deep in her memory. Who is there? She asked, trembling slightly. Her uncertainty clawed at her, but she pressed on. The voice felt less like a stranger and more like a long-lost friend. I've always been here, it replied, stepping out of the light. It took only a moment for recognition to flash across her mind, making her breath hitch. Jesus? She whispered, shock coursing through her veins. His presence radiated peace amidst the chaos. You did well to face the shadows. The moment you chose hope, you entered a realm of clarity. But beware, his expression shifted to one of concern. The battle is far from over. What do you mean? She questioned, her heart leaping into her throat. I thought I had confronted my fears. The air thickened as he gestured ahead. The darkness you faced is only the beginning. It learns more about you each time. Though you've won this round, it will return, stronger than before. I can't let it win, she declared, determination refueling her spirit. Jesus smiled softly. Your courage is admirable, but understanding the truth about yourself is key. There are layers to your soul that you've yet to uncover. Remember, the light can guide you, but it's up to you to wield it. The echoes of his words sunk in, sending chills up her spine. She realized the fight wasn't about external forces alone but within her as well. All her past choices, the regrets, the pain, they were pieces of her that needed healing. As she stepped closer to Jesus, a flicker of movement caught her eye. From the corner of her vision, a shadow began to gather, a dark form swirling ominously. It twisted like smoke, pulling itself together, and a sinister smile stretched across its featureless face. No. She gasped. Stay strong. Jesus warned, his voice steady amidst the chaos. The true battle resides within. Fear bubbled to the surface, but she remembered the light, the warmth that had surged through her before. In her heart, she felt its presence growing. She could summon it again. She had to. With newfound conviction, Sarah raised her hands, channeling all her memories of love and resilience. The light flickered to life, fresh and eager to push back the darkness. The shadow hesitated, its form unstable in the brilliance she projected. You cannot hide from me forever. It screeched, eyes narrowing. I am not hiding. Sarah countered boldly. I am choosing to embrace the truth. The shadow recoiled, the air shifting as the clash of hope and despair raged around them. She knew this would be different this time. Suddenly, amidst the struggle, a chilling vision blurred into her thoughts, faces of those she had lost, the love, the laughter, the lessons. They were there, urging her forward. Then a voice, deeper and more ancient, resonated through the chaos. Choose wisely, Sarah. Every choice has its consequence. What does that mean? She gasped, feeling the weight of those words settle heavy on her shoulders, but as she concentrated, ready to unleash all her strength, the figure lunged, and everything around her began to spin wildly. Would Sarah confront the full scope of her fears, or would the shadows consume her once more? A decision loomed, one that would shape her destiny forever. The air grew thick with anticipation as the darkness pressed in around her. What awaited her in that infinite abyss? Could she handle what the truth revealed? As her heart raced, new shadows stirred. She would have to choose the path that would define not just her journey but the fate of everything she held dear. The darkness swirled around Sarah like a living entity, tightening its grip, almost suffocating. She could feel the weight of her own insecurities pressing down on her, the cacophony of her unresolved emotions fighting to escape. Just as she braced for the inevitable impact of the shadow, a surge of light erupted from her hands, illuminating the void as if the sun broke through a stormy sky. Fight back. The voice of Jesus rang in her ears, a beacon of hope. This is your moment. With every ounce of determination, Sarah focused on the memories that ignited her spirit: her mother's laughter, the warmth of her best friend's embrace, the sensation of love that had once flooded her heart. She released the light, a brilliant beam shooting forth, scattering the tendrils of darkness around her. But the shadow did not retreat. Instead, it writhed with new tenacity, surging forward, eyes glinting like venomous daggers. You think your light can stop me? I am the fear that never fades, the doubt that festers. I thrive on your pain. The confidence she held began to quiver beneath its cruel laughter. Her heart raced as the haunting memories she thought she had buried deep clawed their way back to the surface, filling her mind with self-doubt. What if she had misunderstood everything? What if hope was false? No. She screamed, shaking her head fiercely. You have no power over me. Barely holding on, she felt Jesus' presence beside her, a calming force. The truth is your ally. Remember, the light does not only conquer, it reveals. As those words resonated within her, the swirling colors around them shifted. She saw flashes of truth, shards of light combining to create a larger picture, a vision. A glimpse into her own soul, revealing layers of herself she had never truly acknowledged. Sarah gasped as the images exploded in her mind, showing a younger version of herself hiding in the shadows, tears freezing on her cheeks from unspoken fears. No, she whispered, the pain tangible. I didn't know I had to confront you. Embrace them, Jesus urged softly. It's the only way. With a deep, steadying breath, she closed her eyes and reached into the depths of her past. She called forth the mistakes, the failures, the moments of betrayal. Instead of recoiling, she allowed those memories to wash over her, breaking the chains that bound her. The light pulsed in response, expanding. Suddenly, the shadow faltered, its shape shifting as if it were losing its form. What are you doing? It hissed in horror. I'm reclaiming what belongs to me. Sarah shouted, disbelief and strength colliding within her. The memories ignited her resolve. Each painful moment began to transform, turning into fuel for her inner fire. I will no longer be defined by you. The clash between light and dark intensified, crackling in the air as Sarah poured every ounce of herself into the fight. The shadow screamed, a sound that sent chills racing down her spine, but she stood her ground. Then, just as it seemed the darkness would fade, the ground beneath her began to tremble, and a voice, ancient and profound, echoed out from the depths of the swirling abyss. Are you ready to face what lies beyond this darkness, Sarah? The path you choose will change everything. What lies beyond? Sarah whispered, dread creeping into her heart. The shadow flared one last time, gathering strength for a final attack. Everything it whispered, a sickening sweetness edging through the cracks of its fury. All your past is intertwined with your future. Choose wisely, Sarah. As the final challenge loomed ahead, the world around her began to shimmer, the colors swirling faster. The ultimatum was set. Could she confront the very essence of her being, or would she be consumed by shadows that had always hovered just out of reach? With her heart pounding and the stakes higher than ever, Sarah braced herself for the truth that awaited her. What unimaginable revelations could shatter her worlds or mend them? The storm of darkness surged around Sarah, twisting and turning, almost alive in its malicious intent. Shadows loomed, each one echoing her past failures and fears. But deep in her core, a flicker of light burned brighter with every pulse of defiance. She stood at the edge of an infinite abyss, and she felt the power radiating through her, a fire ignited by acknowledgement and acceptance. Enough! Sarah declared, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. She could feel Jesus beside her, urging her on. The shadows hissed, recoiling at her conviction, but the monstrous figure at the heart of the storm laughed, a twisted sound that rattled her resolve. Face it. You will always be defined by your failures. You're a coward. It spat, the darkness swirling feverishly. Sarah felt that familiar pang of pain, the guilt that clawed at her sanity. But she wasn't that girl anymore. With each breath, she felt herself reclaiming ground she once thought lost. I am not defined by my past. I will not let you control me. Her commanding voice echoed back, strong and fierce. She focused again on the warmth inside her, the memories of laughter, of love, of hope. She envisioned them enveloping her, forming a protective barrier. As she embraced these feelings, a golden light burst forth from her, illuminating the shadows. The dark figure shrank back, writhing as if stung. What is this? It shrieked, eyes wide with a mix of fear and rage. It's the truth, she replied, grounding herself in this newfound strength. You are a part of me, yes, but you do not dictate who I am. I acknowledge my pain, my fears, but I choose to let go. With that declaration, she released the light within her, letting it expand and fill the entire space. The ground trembled beneath her, the brilliance consuming the shadows, cleaving them apart at the seams. Each dark whisper crumbled, morphing into flares of experiences she had long hidden away. Relief washed over her, and for the first time, she allowed herself to embrace the good with the bad. Sarah. Jesus' voice rang clear, a guiding hand amidst the fury of light and darkness. Believe in yourself, push through. With resolve, she brought forward the memories of those she had hurt, her failures flooding her mind. She no longer saw them as weights to carry but as lessons, as stones that built the path of her life. And the more she accepted them, the more the shadows diminished. Every choice leads me here, she whispered, almost to herself. Every moment, cherished or regrettable, made me who I am today. Her belief fused with the light as it surged forward, enveloping her surroundings. Each flicker of illumination tore at the shadows, dispelling them into the air. Then, the dark figure screeched, its form collapsing in upon itself. You cannot escape me, Sarah. Your past will always return. A pulse of fear ran through Sarah. What if it was right? But instead of falling inward, she steadied her breath and found strength in the brilliance radiating from deep within her spirit. No. She shouted. You may be part of my history, but you do not dictate my future. I am more than my mistakes. The air crackled with energy as the shadow recoiled, its form breaking apart. You're weak. You'll fail again. It howled. Watch me rise. She cried back, a wave of empowerment crashing over her. The light enveloped her entirely now, the scene transforming into a magnificent vision, a new landscape shimmering before her eyes. Shades of brilliant colors stretched endlessly, every hue vibrant and tranquil, a landscape of hope filled with promise. Sarah, you have faced the darkness, Jesus said, his presence like a comforting sunbeam. Your journey does not end here, but your victory is your foundation for more light ahead. As shadows receded, Sarah now felt lighter, the chains of regret finally shattering. The sounds of torment faded, replaced by harmonious whispers of love and possibility. An expanse of peaceful serenity sprawled ahead, and relief flooded her soul. Stepping forward, she embraced the journey awaiting her, knowing that within her lay the power to confront any darkness that might come. She was free. With renewed faith, Sarah smiled, breathing deeply the clean, fresh air of her new beginnings. Hope enveloped her, a blanket against fear's eternal chill. This was her chance to rewrite her story, one of light, love, and acceptance. And she would carry every lesson as she moved forward. As the last remnants of darkness faded, a profound tranquility embraced her spirit. The shadow had been faced, but she knew this was only part of the journey, a continuous battle of choices. And now, vibrant with possibilities and the conviction she had found, Sarah stepped ahead, ready for the adventure awaiting her in the realm of light. The clock struck dawn, ushering forth a new day. Thank you for joining Sarah on her journey. If you want more exclusive stories like this one, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on the thrilling adventures coming your way. Smash that like button now to help this content reach more passionate readers. Let us get those thoughts rolling in the comments section. Flood it with your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey. Your insights mean everything. And hey, this is the moment to show your support. Share this video with at least 5 friends who must experience this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Together, let us keep the light shining bright.